sometimes the toys that we buy for the dogs becomes the toys for the monkeys. Like you can see there, Sissy got hold of that thing. Billy is coming to say hi now. I have to watch because he might just grab the camera and run. Then we have another monkey here today. I just want to see where she's gone now. Let me walk this way around. We'll get her eventually. There's a couple of monkeys over there. I want to give you an update on MacGyver. Look at him. Or is that Arnie? Because they look so similar. Arnie. Yeah, this is Arnie. Why? Because he's eating. That is how you know it's Arnie. Arnie has never not had food in his mouth. Okay, let's go see where is MacGyver. Because he looks exactly the same. And here he comes. And he's so happy to see me. Oh, he is just messing a little bit over here. That's why you never stand under a monkey cage. But he's totally changed. He is so... I'm going to try and get him over here. Because he is absolutely amazing. I can't believe how easily he adapted. He knows these cages so well already. And he's just all around happy. The first day, he didn't even go out of the one cage. He went straight to the other side and he stayed there. And it rained that night and he was sitting in the rain. It was 11 o'clock at night, trying to get him to move into the house, because we've got a place in the house with a cage where they have free access, just so they don't need to be in the elements all the time. And he didn't go there, and it was such a difficult thing to do. Now I noticed that he did lose some hair on his back. They do that when they stress a little bit, but it's already growing back. If you look at it, just look at it on his back, new hair coming out right away. So he's shedding all his old fur and he's getting new ones. He looks so much like Arnie, but yeah, he was a little afraid when he came into our area because he didn't know what to expect. And you can expect that from anything that goes into a new area. They are a little afraid because they don't know what is waiting for them. Well, sometimes it's a great life that waits for you and you might just be afraid. And it might prevent you from going towards it. So, yeah, something a lot of people have been asking me about is, how do you cope with not being afraid? Look at all these dogs. Am I afraid of having more? No. I actually think I will definitely have more in my life. Let me just quiet them down. Shh, 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 shh. And look at the Jaeger. Are they afraid of him? Nope, because they know him. I've introduced them to him quite a few months ago already, and he is an amazing, amazing tiger. Oh yeah, shush, shush, shush. It's this one that's barking, because they all look so much alike. So, let me get out of here. She's gonna keep on barking, or he. I still cannot tell the difference between three of these. They look so much the same and they change. Look at Jack over here. Always the one that's playing with all the others. They all just tackle him because, I mean, he just looks different to the others. So they all focus on him. Trappies hasn't come in yet. And it's good because he is the noise maker. So, yeah, that is something I think I should talk about. People have been asking me about being afraid. They have trouble living out of fear. And I've decided I will give some advice. I can also only give advice up to a point. But now he wants to make a noise, so I'm going to go through this side. Let's see where's Enzo. So fear is actually something that you experience when you don't know what to expect. When something is totally out of your reach and you have to make the call and you don't know what is going to happen. And that is absolutely perfect. That is how it should be. Because if you did not fear anything, well, that would make you something totally capable of handling anything or thinking that you might handle anything. Now, a fearless person will just enter into this enclosure with these tigers and he would think that he is safe. Now, if your knowledge goes to such an extent where you know that you will be safe, well, then fear has never even been into that equation. You have sidestepped it with knowledge. So the best way to overcome your fear is to increase your knowledge on anything. Now if I say anything, I mean general knowledge in so many fields that wherever you go, whatever you do, you need to know something about it. You need to know if you should drop into that water, how to get out. You should know if you should find yourself into this enclosure, how to identify it and how to know how to get out. If you are somewhere where everything is out of your control, then fear is probably a good thing, because that is you being warned that anything can happen. Now I remember being afraid and overcoming it. I think the most fear that you can feel is basically when you're a child and you have no knowledge and you start off with a blank page. Now I remember, if I have to think back, the first time I was afraid, I remember back in the 80s we had bombings in South Africa. There was bombings. They were blowing up things. And I just threw down that broom and Diego wanted it. So, yeah, we were going, even now when it is the Easter weekend, we used to go to a certain place. And we went there every year. And when you're 6 years old, or 4 even, and you start hearing the news, and you know about bombs going off in your area, and you don't know where the next one might be. Well, when you're a child, you become afraid of that. I think anyone becomes afraid of that. So, that was the first fear that I actually experienced. And yeah, eventually you realized that you've paid the price for it. You've given the fear, and there was never a bomb. Well, not where you were. So basically, you were afraid for nothing. Just look at him. He's walking so softly next to them because he knows that they might not suspect it. Right, that cat did not have any fear right now, although he did not put his paws through this fence when Diego was right there. But when Diego moved away, he did put his paws through. And that said to me that he knows that Diego is really dangerous. But when he took control of the situation, that's when he reacted. So he just stayed calm, carried on with his life. And then he reacted. So, he must know something. Maybe someone told him something. Well, that could be Katas, because, yeah, I did go into this enclosure and I took her out of Diego's mouth when he caught her, when she was not supposed to be in here. So, it was a whole thing that happened. And yesterday I had someone who asked me to explain that situation, what really happened there. And yeah, that's all I can say. I heard the screams. I came outside. I listened by. Now you can go and watch the video. The CCTV footage is there. It's not that great quality, but it shows what happened. I was over here and right here listening, and I heard her scream. I also had to listen for a few seconds. And if I say a few seconds, I say about probably 5 to 10 seconds. And right over there, Diego had her. And he did bite her. Her leg was broken. And she did have some damage. And, well, here she is. So, you can check her out. Let me just open here. So she's perfectly fine. But she did have some damage, because he was going to really, well, let's not sugarcoat this. He was going to kill her. And I did not have any fear. I just knew I was not going to accept it. And I ran out here and I got a little chair that was standing around here. And I thought, well, that's the only thing that I can get my hands on. So let me get in here. And I went in, and first I had to fight past Enzo. But it wasn't like fighting. It wasn't like I was defending myself. I was the attacker at that moment. So you've got a different state of mind when that happens. If you are forced to attack, believe me, there's nothing that can stop you. But you have to stay in control of it. Because I don't want to hurt him. Look at him. He's just saying, you hurt me. Ha. That was what that was. But in any case, I got in. And please know, I did not lose any respect for these tigers. They are getting all my respect. Well, I'll keep a little 1% aside. But I had to fight my way into Diego. And you've seen what he can be like. Now, he wasn't exactly like the Diego that gets upset when he's eating, because he was being attacked. So he was getting a little afraid. And Enzo realized that I'm not in there to come and play games. I was in there to get my cat. And yeah, I went up to them over there, right on the other side, and I simply went up to him. I basically jumped onto him and I took the cat. I wasn't negotiating. There was no room for negotiations. That was what I was there to do, and then I wanted to get out. So I did. So I didn't do that having 1 ounce of fear in my being. Fear would have prevented me from getting it done. So I can tell you from that point of view what fear is. Now, I have experienced real fear. And when I say real fear, I am not talking about a maniac with a gun against your head threatening to pull the trigger. That is a 1 on a scale of 10. Now, I don't know if I should tell people about that yet. I will one day. I hope I live to tell people that. People are not really ready to hear about that. But there is something much, much, much more dangerous. Not only dangerous, but it's total. So, yeah. Believe me, these little cats, And yes, I'm referring to the tigers as little cats. There's nothing against what I know. Like I said, I don't think people are ready to hear it yet. I will slowly introduce it until one day I will show and I will tell. But yeah, that is something else. And once you've gone there, nothing else can make you afraid again. Now, certain small little things can happen. And something happened in the last 2 weeks as well. Something that is very hard to deal with. I don't know how I dealt with it, but I dealt with it so easily. But I think it was just because of the point of view that I'm talking about. So I want to tell you guys about that, but I have to make that another video, I think. But yeah, sometimes you get bad news and you have got no choice. You have to just accept it. But then in that acceptance, you've got so much confidence that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what someone tells you. You do not become afraid. Now, I'm not going to say I'm absolutely fearless, but I know my limit. I know what I can take. And like I said before, this is not about proving how strong you are. I mean, sometimes someone that's been bullied at school can convince themselves that they have to go join a gym and become as big as they can. And that's what they do. But they've only done this to be able to cope with the threat of that fear. So they haven't dealt with it yet because they still think it's a physical fight. And in some cases it might be a physical fight, but if you are emotionally strong enough to handle that physical fight and to handle the damage, then only have you overcome it. So it's not worth it to join the gym and to become a 250-pound man that can basically fight anyone. Because there's smaller things that might bring you down. A mosquito, for instance. So you have to know that it's a mental fight. It's something that you will see, what you will learn, and then coping with it and getting over it. And I've talked about the gun against the head. Yes, as long as the gun didn't go off. Although, if the gun would have gone off, there you would also, sometimes you will survive, but does it really matter from a fear point of view if the gun goes off or not? Because you will have to deal with the fear afterwards, or it will be cancelled in a second, in an instance. So you tend to think about those things when you've got a gun against your head. But believe me, I was once working inside this area, and when I turned around, Enzo was right smelling me in my neck, and he just went and I turned around and I got a fright of him. Not only because he's a tiger, I think anyone could have sneaked up to me and just touched me on the back and I would have gotten that fright. And you tend to overcome the fear of certain other things when something like that happens. And luckily, from his perspective, he had a lot of patience with me and he didn't want to hurt me. But it was a fright that I had to deal with. So I've had a lot of that. And you tend to get stronger every time. And how strong should you be? Well, that you can only determine from your compassion point. Because if it's gonna start interfering with your compassion, then you should not get over that fear. Fear can be a good thing because it keeps you humble. Now, people who have lost all fear could become like a tiger. And if he is afraid of nothing, you will bleed. So, we must always keep a little fear in our being, or the remembrance of fear. Because I can think back to when I was 6 years old and I'm walking around that parking lot. We are going to enjoy the day, but I'm worried about there being a bomb, because that is what I was told. Especially with children, when you go into the seaside and you are planning your 2 weeks vacation, before you go there and you start telling the children about a shark in the sea. Don't do that. You are gonna fill them with fear because they are not able to cope it. And why should they pay with fear and lose 2 weeks of a great vacation? So it is something that goes very far. But know this, you have to cope. You have to carry on, and you will. And if you don't make it past it, you would not even know about it. So, fear is something that might even not exist. It can only live in an environment where you have created it. That is something. I have so much to say about fear that I think I've only said about 10% of it now. But you must be very careful when fear and respect comes into play, because there's a very fine line between it. Respect is what I have for these tigers. Fear is what I might one day, how can I say that? One day find in thinking about them. This is very difficult, putting all these, because remember, I get these things in a download. I don't get it in words, so I have to interpret it. But yeah, never lose respect for something that is stronger than you, and never lose respect for something that is not stronger than you, because everything gets its time to be on top. And if you are gonna mess up with the wrong thing, you're gonna have a problem. Kittens are just playing, they're just so happy. The mother cat is right here watching them. Katas is over here as she survived. And everybody's happy. Oh guys, this is one of the longer videos again. I hope you can use some of what I said. I am going to tell you guys about the ultimate fear that I have seen, and maybe you can believe me. I think you have to be on a certain point of view before you could hear that and use it the right way. Well, gotta go, got some things to do, and I hope that you're having a great day without any fear whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day.